And I think like what you're saying, definitely, when it comes to jazz, like when it comes to the different genres really in music, whether it's rock, jazz, blues, whatever,
Fusion.
contemporary type stuff, fusion stuff, I can definitely tell, again, like what you said, about going, and if we were to go out and see somebody playing, when it comes to jazz stuff, I can instantly tell whether or not they are educated or not in the genre. Like you said, going out with your buddy, he can tell right away. When it comes to jazz, definitely for sure. Now, again, like when it comes to the different genres, it's nothing against other genres, but like in rock, you don't have to be a mad scientist to become a great rock player.
Right.
I mean, and I don't mean that in a bad way,
No.
but playing solid rock stuff takes a different type of discipline than jazz. To me, it's just different. That's how I try to describe it to people. It's not a jazz guy isn't any better than a rock guy. Like that doesn't make sense to me.
It's like if you spoke good German and if you spoke good German and I spoke good Spanish, you're not a better speaker. You're just speaking different. You're just speaking a different language.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't. To me, it's all fruits. You like oranges, I like peaches. Cool. It doesn't mean your orange is better than my peach because it's bigger. Like there's no like no. I don't like oranges, so it's just what it is. It's cool. So I like to always, but when it comes to jazz, obviously that's what I went to school for years ago. I mean, and I got to play jazz for 15, 20 years professionally in Chicago, all over the Midwest, with all kinds of great players. And, even coming out of school, being as well educated as I was, man, you get into the professional world like any world. And like you said, I don't think there's any great player. If you're not wanting to expand upon your stuff, you're kind of going to get stagnant at some point anyways.
So that's an interesting thing that people don't understand if they're not musicians, right? They don't understand this fact that you just brought up, that it seems like it never ends. So you watch a Julian Lage interview, and I love that guy's attitude.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, and he's like so sweet, and he's so nice, and he's like, but I mean, he's a beast playing, right? And you hear him talking, he's like, I heard this thing the other day, and I just thought that was the most wonderful thing I ever heard. And I'm like, because he's still learning as good as he is, and right. So have you seen that? Have you seen that out there? Like when you've been out and about, like you talked about Robert Plant wanting to meet Buddy Guy, and that mad respect these guys have, and how they always are probably trying to learn new stuff.
Yeah, and I think that comes definitely. I can't speak for all of the younger generation because I've seen some from the younger guys that are like this, but we've kind of gotten away from paying our, I'm a very old school soul in that aspect. I like to pay my respects to the guys that came before me and really give them the benefit of the doubt, even though, again, like I said, I may not like their peach. I'm not a peach guy, but I'm going to go see that peach and I'm going to hang out with that. And I want to talk with them and be like, hey, man, thank you. That was incredible. It's not my cup of tea, it's not my thing, but I think we've kind of lost a little bit, but that's kind of with society at this point. Also, we're very much about the now, what we see immediately on right in front of us, but I think as the better of a musician you want to get, for sure, I think it's not necessarily, you don't have to go pay your respects to other musicians, but the learning process makes you humble, right? Any kind of learning process. I don't care if you're going to a new job, whether you're an IT guy or whatever. Anytime you're learning, you're humbling yourself to want to learn stuff and to want to bring in these other ideas, and learning, I mean, it's just a fact of life. If nobody learns, then we'd all be infants until we're 40, I mean, come on. I mean, but why stop once you feel comfortable in life? Right?
Yeah.
Why, once you get your dream job or the job that you feel pays for whatever, why should you stop learning?
Right.
I see a lot of people get comfortable today, whether it's once they have kids and they're doing their 9 to 5 or whatever, doing their routines, and they go on for 10 years. And then after about 10 years, they're like, man, I'm unhappy. I'm getting divorced. But I think it's like that all the way around, really. Correct. Even in music,
Work on your relationships. Work on your music.
You have to work on learning. Keep feeding our souls want to learn. We want to learn from other people. We want to learn from experiences, Again, experience is that same way of talking about when we play a tune, and instead of getting it on a piece of paper to play that guy solo, you try to figure it out. It takes a different learning capability to do that, and it makes a different connection in you, right? For that, whether it's musically or intellectually out on the street, whether it's not even music. And for me, I just feel like a lot of the younger generation today isn't really, they want to learn all the new cool stuff or the new guitar riff, but they don't, like, I remember when we grew up, it was like, you couldn't wait to learn so-and-so solo. And then once you learned so-and-so solo, you were like, oh, wait a minute. He was getting his stuff from who? Once you dove deep enough into the artist you liked, and I'm not saying you got bored with him, but you got to the point to where you knew so much of his stuff that eventually you were like, well, let me find out about the man behind the guitar, right? And as soon as you heard about that, all of a sudden he turned you on to whatever. Like, you listen to Stevie Ray, and then he would be like, well, Albert King and, Jimi Hendrix were, I was really listening to. And then you're like, oh, whoa, maybe I should go listen to them now, right? A little light bulb goes on, and you go to the next step, and you go to the next. And then you listen to those guys for long enough, and they're like, well, I got it from Son House, and I got it from, right? And now you're on the trail, dude.
Yeah.
And that trail, it's again, man, we're like a big tree of life, There's all these leaves and all these branches, and somewhere you're way up here on one of these little leaves. That's where we are in the scheme of life at this point. And now you want to come down all of that, and you start coming into the main route, and you get to the main route the first time, and then you realize, man, there's millions of other branches, and then there's all these other people off of these branches. right? That is the beauty to it all, is that learning process, man. But you got to want that, you know. And some, I think we all go through phases in our life where we want it more than other times to discover new things and new artists. Sometimes we're more than content. Just, all right, this is my thing. This is what I want to know the best, just this. But I think getting back to the younger musicians, I think we do need to go and look at all that stuff. Just because you know how to play these 3 or 4 chords killer, like, you know, the Stone Temple Pilots, that's great. But why not diversify a little? It may change your